Mr. Clawson, you're recognized. Which amendment are you speaking to?
Thank you for the recognition. Thank you for the time.
Speak up.
Yep. My amendment is Amendment 193. I think my amendment is reasonable, and I think this amendment is nonpartisan. My amendment would remove the requested $600 million to fund arming and training of Syrian rebels. Instead, that money would go to the OCO, the Overseas Contingency Operations Account. This is not a military reduction. I want America to have the best military in the world and the means of providing the best technology and support for our brave troops. I am from a family of vets. My father, my uncles, my oldest sister's son, my nephew, is going for his second round in Afghanistan. I say the money should go for those folks, not for moderate fighters in Syria. We all want to end U.S. involvement in conflicts where there is no vision of what success looks like, no long-term strategy, and a disproportionate risk on our home team. Syria fits this characterization. It's a mess. It's a chaotic situation. We all know this. We are loosely engaged in someone else's civil war and without much hope for a good outcome. Last September, I voted against the authorization of $500 million to arm the so-called group of moderate rebels, a program for which there is asked for $600 million in the coming year. I said at that time, history has always shown that when we arm untested allies like these Syrian rebels, those weapons too often end up being aimed at us or our allies, including Israel. Even worse, those weapons are often aimed on future battlefields. I stand by those statements today with the same or even greater confidence than when I made them at that time. Taking this chance makes no sense to me, given that we are given no definition of what victory in this conflict looks like, no strategy, no vision of a Syria that will offer a representative government to its people, and no promise that Syria will evolve as a friend rather than a threat to Israel and our other allies. What have we achieved here since that vote? I say not much. Recently, we reached an agreement in February with Turkey to use training facilities in the area, but just this past Monday, Turkey's foreign minister reneged, stating on Turkish TV that these efforts will be delayed. This war hurts our relationships with our friends. Meanwhile, the Assad regime continues its atrocities against men and women, and the Syrian civil war has now resulted in 220,000 Syrian deaths and 11.5 million civilians displaced. Some elements of the so-called moderate opposition have now aligned themselves with al-Qaeda and al-Nusra in the fight against Assad. Today, there's more concern about partnering with these rebels than there was back in September. And in September, I remind everyone, there was bipartisan concern about that bill. We went round and round. I say no bad wars. Our country's tired of bad wars. No to the funding of unreliable Syrian rebels. I say every single dollar for our home team and for our troops like my nephew. Let the money go for the home team here. I say it's time to have that debate again about Syria before we prolong this bad war. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.